Hey everyone, it's time for a live look at the astrology. My name is Katie Sweetman, and this is your look at the astrology for September 14th through, no, not even, September 18th through 24th, 2023. It's like 14th, no, 24th. It's always, as always, lovely to see you all, and it's a little bit of a Neptunian start to our week because we've got the sun opposite Neptune, which means maybe you're a little tired, maybe you're, kind of want to, retreat from the world, maybe you don't know what's going on. Sometimes Neptune can make things a little bit foggy and hazy, but we will get to the bottom of what Neptune really wants from us this week. And even last week we had that Virgo new moon. It's sort of like, I don't know how you all feel. It really feels that final kick into the season after that late start, because we had that new moon towards the end of Virgo season. And then that new moon brought us to Mercury direct. So finally, Mercury is direct. And it doesn't mean, you know me, I'm not one of those people that freaks out about Mercury retrograde, but it did add a little bit of a damper to Virgo season for the first few weeks. It meant that we had to make sure we did our homework, we checked the plan, we made sure everything added up before we launch out of the gate. And maybe we needed that because we are, even though we just had a Virgo new moon, by this weekend the sun is going to go into Libra, and we go not only into Libra season, we go into the unofficial start of eclipse season. So yes, your old friend, eclipse season, your friend and my friend, every 6 months we have eclipses, and they're just part and parcel of the astrology. It just means that a new moon or a full moon is within a certain distance of the ecliptic, and it also means that it ushers in a very dynamic time, and it's as if one curtain comes down on one act of our life and then the curtain comes up on another. And this is actually our first Libra eclipse since, I believe, 2015, so it's been a while, and we'll talk more about that. It's a little bit of a preview right now with the eclipse season, even though we're not quite there, because Mars is in Libra. So Mars is planting all these seeds at the moment. In fact, and I had a little bit of an exchange with you all this weekend, because I said, like, this weekend the moon's in Libra. It is 1 month before the Libra solar eclipse. Pay attention. And it's very curious because that moon's going to give us, or gave us rather, a hint, sometimes not dramatic, sometimes very obvious, of the new chapter that's ushering in with the Libra solar eclipse on October 14th. But I'm getting ahead of myself. It's September. It's still Virgo season. So for those who don't know who I am, my name is Katie Sweetman, and I'm an astrologer and psychic medium located here in the New York City area. And every week we gather live to talk about the astrology. And you hear me say it every week. The astrology is 50%. You are the other 50%. But of course, there are always going to be things that are a little bit bigger than us, and we have to learn how to navigate, learn how to let go of our ego. And I'm saying that because Neptune is one of our major aspects to this week. So as we start the week, we have Sun opposite Neptune, and Neptune was actually a major player in the September 14th new moon, almost eclipse, but that's not true. The new moon in Virgo, because that new moon was in kind of a wide opposition to Neptune. So what's Neptune? Neptune is a newer addition to astrology, and by newer I mean like 1840s newer, but it's not one of the planets that the ancients knew about. So Neptune, Uranus, discovered in the 1780s, Pluto, discovered in the 1930s. These are the 3 evolutionary planets. So they are outside the boundaries and borders of Saturn, which is the last known planet to the ancients. So they work a little bit differently than your average planet. So Neptune, evolutionary planet, what does that mean? Its job is to get you to grow and evolve, get me and everybody else to grow and evolve by any means possible. So imagine a life where nothing changes. Imagine a life where we never question ourselves, we never look outside of ourselves, we never peer beyond anything. And for a lot of human history, that was the case. And it's not to say that there weren't people who had discovered things and taught things and tried to share things and to open up people's eyes to new realms and new ways of thinking. Of course, there was always those people, but we're in a time where we have more of that accessible to everybody on this planet. So here we are, we're in this time in humanity, and it's really in the last couple hundred years, where we have these evolutionary planets that really have reflected at least in terms of like the greater arc of human history, a rapid growth and transformation. Of course, there's always shadow sides to it. It's never easy. It's definitely messy. I think everybody thought in 2012 that Neptune and Pisces, and me too, but I was much younger, was just going to be rainbows and kittens, and everybody was going to hug and get along, and it's been quite the opposite. So we have to always look at the shadow side of things, and I'm just saying that as a Scorpio. But anyway, Neptune, stay on track, Katie. Neptune, its job is to get us to grow and evolve by any means possible. It works a little bit differently than the other two evolutionary planets, Uranus and Pluto. Neptune pulls back the veil. Neptune has an energy that actually is a bit similar to the moon. They just sort of work on different energy wavelengths, so to speak. And with it, like the moon, it's a transmitter. We feel things. And if you have a strong Neptune in your chart, if you have Neptune rising like me, or maybe you have Neptune the first, or you have Neptune conjunct the sun, or I could go on, you know what I'm talking about. You pick up on everything. You feel everything. You feel things that are not yours. And on the positive side, it makes you very compassionate. On the maybe not so helpful side, sometimes it's hard to distinguish what is your responsibilities, and what is not yours, for example. Neptune, as I alluded to earlier, has been in Pisces since 2011. Yes, 2011. It was in and out in 2011. Back in 2012, I think it was like February of 2012. And Neptune spends 14 years in a zodiac sign. So we're actually coming to the end, not this year, not next year, but in 2025 and 2026, if I'm remembering my astrology correctly, Neptune will go into Aries. So Neptune is coming to the end of its time in Pisces, end of its time throughout one turn in the zodiac, and that's another conversation for another time what that means for Aries. But in the meantime, we're starting to come to the end of something. Neptune talks about a spiritual work, and that word might, maybe we have different feelings about the word spirit or the phrase spiritual work. When something's a spiritual work, we have to transcend something. Maybe on a more humanistic level, it's like transcend our ego. Maybe not have so much attachments to things that obviously make us suffer and pull us down. But Neptune is trying to slowly erode, slowly evolve, slowly open up, and to reveal something to us. So I wanted to say that because it's not enough to say, well, we have Sun opposite Neptune this week. It's enough we need to really kind of give it a little bit more context. And I feel that Neptune is one of those planets that I don't think is always talked about. I don't want to say correctly because I don't want that to sound judgmental or whatever, but I think there's a lot of stock language around Neptune, and I don't really think it always gets to the heart of what Neptune is trying to do. It is very sensitizing. So as a result, this week, we may be feeling very sensitized to something. Maybe our heart is open. Maybe we're more weepy. Maybe we're like, why am I crying, Katie? Why am I watching these movies? And maybe our dreams are more vivid, but we really need to be anchored with Neptune's energy because it will pull us away from ourselves. It will make us think that this is great. It's the illusion side of Neptune. And how do we learn to really go beyond that? And that's where Sun, not Sun ego, but Sun as in self, and I mean capital S self. And how do we align our higher self with Neptune? Obviously, that's a big ask and a big lift for 1 week, but wherever Neptune is in your chart, for example, that area is a spiritual work. There's a need to transcend something. And so even it's Virgo season and we have Neptune over in Virgo's 7th sign of relationships. So the field of where we're doing our work this with Neptune this Virgo season is relationships, and both capital R relationships and small r relationships, meaning, it's not just the major relationships in your life. It's how do you interact and socialize with people. Do you have boundaries? It's another word for Neptune. So we don't always have the best boundaries, but of course we're human beings, but Neptune reminds us that we're actually more than just human beings. It's a little bit of an esoteric look at Neptune. I think we have to look at Neptune in sort of these esoteric levels because there's so many different shades to Neptune, but it is ultimately an evolutionary planet, just like Uranus, just like Pluto, and it has its own agenda. So like I said, even though you hear me say every week, the astrology is 50%, you're the other 50%, we have to meet these forces. Of course, we have to sort of see and feel what we can control and what we can't control. But when I say forces, it's not like the weather. It's currently very Neptune-y outside, drizzly, hazy, at least here in the New York City area. That part I can't change. So I can choose to have an umbrella. That part I have choice. So how do you choose to meet Neptune this week? So also this week, it's the start of Libra season, and that's really towards the end of this week. The sun will go into Libra early on September 23rd, and it's the start of the autumn equinox here, and at least here in the Northeast United States. For those that are here, I'm part of my Tuesday club. In the Southern Hemisphere, you're in Australia, and New Zealand, maybe perhaps even in South Africa. I know I have some people that watch from South Africa. It's the start of the spring equinox. So what does the equinox mean? Equal day and equal night. The sun is sort of, at least from the Northern Hemisphere perspective, has gotten to the point where since the solstice, the summer solstice, we are now on the descent. And then we reach the equinox, equal day and night, and then we keep going down. And then we get into Scorpio season, which is sort of the look at the shadow, the look at the darkness, look at the decay and the rebirth of life that then brings us into Sagittarius season, where we need to figure out, what do we believe in? What do we stand for? What do we think is true? And then we are reborn with the light. We have the winter solstice, and that brings us back to the ascent, where the days start to get longer. And then we have these festivals, and in February at least, where we have the celebration of Candlemas and like St. Bridget's Day, and so we the Groundhog Day version of things. But that's where we celebrate the return of light. So it's just this very ancient path that our ancestors knew all about, that we are starting to, at least here in the Northern Hemisphere, go into the darkness, to descend into something. I say darkness, I mean as sort of metaphor, that shadow work that we all have to do. So we'll give Libra its fair due next week, but it is the start of a new season. We are wrapping up Virgo season this week. Virgo season will in a way take us into October. Why? Because we had that late in the game Virgo new moon. So it brings that Virgo energy into the first couple of weeks of October, all in preparation for the Libra solar eclipse on October 14th. So like I said earlier, maybe we needed that time to plan and to reconsider and cool our heels, so to speak, with Mercury retrograde. I know not everybody likes when planets turn retrograde, but it's just part of the dance of life. Also this week, we do have some energies of Pluto. We have the Sun trine Pluto. I'll get to that in a moment, but it sort of prepares us for the season of transformation and rebirth, because certainly eclipses are about transformations and rebirth. So before I go into the astrology of this week, I just want to talk to you all very quickly about my Saturn masterclass. I already have 7 signups, and I'm so excited to be able to launch this 12-week course with you all. I did this last year. It was actually very powerful, very intimate, very beautiful, has a space in my heart, and that I also wanted to say that despite its name, Saturn Masterclass, it is a course, it is a program that talks about life, because Saturn structures, boundary, time, aging, karma, lessons. Doesn't sound glamorous, but it's important. is built into the zodiac. And the zodiac is the container for life. It's the wheel of life. And we will walk this path that is in the zodiac. It's sort of there in plain sight. And we will walk each week through each zodiac sign. And we sort of have a lesson that's revealed to us. We have a deeper truth that is revealed to us. So there'll be sharing and some lecture, not complete lecture, some journal prompts, and sort of create this sort of container and this group together, where the goal is ultimately to have a sort of a transformation, to have something shift, to have a new realization on life, and to really understand not only the fundamental building blocks of life according to astrology, but why are you here? What was your life built to become? That part is Saturn, depending on where Saturn was when you were born. So you can go to my website, empoweringastrology.com. It's there to check it out or to sign up if you've been thinking about it. And today, September 14th, although if you're on my Tuesday club, maybe you want to September 15th for my Tuesday club people, if you're in the Southern Hemisphere, my early registration is ending. So we still have a few more weeks until the program starts on October 12th, and it will run weekly all the way till January 4th, and it will be recorded for those that you can't quite make all the classes. So anyway, I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about my Saturn Masterclass. I will continue to talk a little bit more as we get into October, because I'm really excited to be able to share it with you all again. So let's talk about the astrology of this week of September 14th through 24th. So you got this time 2023. So this week we don't have a lot of major things going on. We sort of start the week with the moon in Scorpio. To be fair, the moon in Scorpio is sort of this reminder that we will have one more eclipse in Taurus. That eclipse will be a lunar eclipse on October 28th. You're like, how does that connect to Scorpio? Because Scorpio is Taurus's opposing sign, and that lunar eclipse will fall in Scorpio season. Also, the Scorpio energy, it really sort of amps up Virgo season. I have a little personal joke about Virgo, is that they are secret Scorpios, because like Scorpio, Virgo wants to be in control of things. It's really good at organizing, creating systems, sort of trying to outmaneuver life, which is something that is Scorpio's MO. But maybe this is a good segue to the Neptune opposition. So on Tuesday, September 15th, we do have the Virgo sun making an opposition to Neptune. So I did my whole little spiel about, what's Neptune and why it's important and what it's trying to do in our astrology. It really reminds us, and maybe even reminds Virgo season, and perhaps even reminds that that Scorpio moon, that we can't be in control all the time. It doesn't mean that we can't have our hand on the steering wheel of life. It doesn't mean that we don't have agency, but we can't be in that tight grip of control. Neptune, over the last decade, has been teaching Virgo. And if you are a Virgo, perhaps you know exactly what I'm talking about, that control is an illusion. And so how do we, even if we're not a Virgo, open up and to surrender to maybe something that needs to happen, and maybe something that's better than we can even comprehend, for example. That said, make sure you stay grounded. Do what I like to call high Neptune, which is meditate, reflect, journal, get quiet, retreat, rest. Don't do low Neptune, is where we try to leave our bodies through substance. Then we get into the middle of the week. We have to go to Thursday, the 17th. That's not right. It's the 19th. That is the sun opposite Neptune. I said 15th. See, my brain's in last week. We get to the 21st of September. The Virgo sun, as it's starting to get out of Virgo, makes a trine to Pluto. So Pluto, by the way, is beginning to wrap up its time in Capricorn. It's a slow goodbye to Capricorn. I know Capricorn, you're like, Pluto can't get out fast enough, but it's not going to be fully out of Capricorn until November of 2024. Yes, we got a whole year, give or take, until Pluto finally leaves Capricorn. But that said, we do have the sun trine Capricorn on the 21st. And Sun trine Pluto, especially Sun trine Pluto with Earth energy. Virgo is an Earth sign, Capricorn is an Earth sign. It's a really good day to transform and reform something physical. It could be positive changes in your health. It could be positive changes in your environment. It could be starting a project. It could be trying to support to bring a vision into reality. So bring a vision into reality with this energy. And then we go into the weekend, and on the 23rd, the sun goes into Libra. So it's the start of Libra season, the 7th sign of the zodiac. This is a Libra season that ushers in, unofficially, at least at this point, it ushers in eclipse season. So we got to have 3 more weeks until we have our first eclipse, but we're here already, and that's the thing. And we'll talk about this next week as as Mars starts to get to the end of Libra. It's picking up on those eclipse degrees. So the eclipses are here right now, even though we got a little bit of time. And that's the funny thing about eclipses, is that they have a tendency to happen before the eclipse and to happen after the eclipse. We just need a trigger, and Mars is classically in astrology a trigger. It heats things up and it makes things happen. That said, we also have Venus trine Chiron on the 23rd. So Venus will be our ruling planet for Virgo season. It's still in Leo. Yeah, it's been in Leo for a long time. It will eventually switch into Virgo by the time we get a little bit more into Libra season. So this will be this energy of Libra, which is about relationships and connection and learning to interact and socialize and to make partnership. And Leo, and in the case of Leo is Libra's 11th sign. So there's this element of community and friendship and building social connection, like sort of group alliances as we go into October. That said, Venus is making that trine to Chiron. So maybe there's an ability to heal something from the past, to let go, undo, untie an old knot. Finally, Mars will make a square to Chiron. That will be on the 24th of September. Mars square Chiron might bring up a pain point, something especially because Mars is the ruler of Chiron and Aries, something about having courage and bravery to move forward, to go after what we want. There is a personal pain point with Chiron, but it really helps us to connect to a collective experience. And that's where we find true healing, when we can sort of see ourselves as part of the greater whole, and how our pain point is actually something that is part of the human experience. But that is your astrology for this week. Of course, we're going to go through each of the 12 zodiac signs. Listen for your sun sign and your rising sign. Listen for both. I actually think we all get a lot of great information from both. At least that's how I do it. Starting with Aries. Aries, so Mars is your planet, and as we've been talking about over the last couple of weeks, Mars is in Libra, your relationship sign. There's a couple of ways in which we can look at this. Number one, it's all about other people right now. Whether you are navigating something with a partnership, a marriage, a capital R relationship, meaning somebody who has an important role in your life, whether you feel very inspired and motivated to reach out, to make connection with other people. It's not a time to be alone, for example. Mars is also going to be a little bit of a trigger point for the solar eclipse to come on October 14th. So Libra is your relationship sign, as you heard me say a few moments ago. It opposes you, meaning it's the sign that's on the opposite end of the zodiac. You did have an Aries solar eclipse back on April 20th. So here we are. This is the next eclipse in the season, although the first Libra eclipse. What this means is that you have stepped into a dynamic chapter, one that you probably haven't seen since 2015, 2014, when the eclipses were back, even the end of 2013, when the eclipses were back in Aries and Libra. Dynamic means it's a time for your life to take a turn. It's typically major events may happen, and this is not a full-scale prediction, of course. Typically, major events happen around eclipses. People come into your life. People leave your life. It's a time for you to really take on the reins of duties and responsibilities, to really know who you are. The North Node is in Aries, and to really stand up for yourself and to stand up for what you need and what you want. But at the same time, with this eclipse to come, you have to learn to negotiate. You have to learn to compromise. You have to learn to build a connection with somebody else. That said, the Sun opposite Neptune. Well, Neptune's in your 12th alongside Saturn. So there's sort of a spiritual overlay to this week. Spiritual means different things to different people. I think with the Sun in Virgo, especially with Neptune in Pisces in your 12th, you have to find the balance between sort of your physical life, your physical duties, and the duties and responsibilities, and maybe even the spiritual commitments, Saturn in Pisces, that pull at your physical life. So how do you find the balance? And maybe even using this energy to let go of an attachment, a suffering, and anything that's holding you back. Taurus. So Venus is your planet. It's still in Leo. And this has been this extra long time of really focusing on home, family, roots, foundation, the retrograde from July 22nd all the way to September 3rd. Gave you this time to go back and look and to reconsider and to dig into the past and to get into these maybe more abstract themes about where is home, who is home, what do I need, emotionally at least, in order to feel safe and secure. So that said, you're still focusing on your home environment. Virgo season for you, it's like the next sign over from where Venus is right now. It's about you in a way. It kind of gets into these themes about individuality, getting to express who you are, your identity, your creative talents, gifts, and abilities. And maybe you've been untangling something that's been about, well, who are you? Who are you as it's been sort of forged and influenced by family in the past, and who are you in the absence of that? Like, how do you be yourself when you have something from the past or family members sort of looming over you, or maybe you don't have that anymore? How do you break free from that, for example? So, but that said, Virgo season plays off of Saturn and also Neptune and Pisces in your 11th. So it really gets into these bigger, broader strokes about the self, but also community, society, social issues, social causes. And how do you find the balance between you and the world? I realize that's a big statement. And all of this is in advance of of course, it's a few weeks away. We're going to have a solar eclipse in Libra, and Libra is your sixth sign, sixth sign of health and wellness. And so maybe all this is kind of getting into these bigger themes that we'll talk about over the next few weeks about having to take care of something on a physical level, your physical body. It's not just health and wellness, it's also projects, duties, responsibilities, and work, sort of the needs of your human life, and how do you find the balance with something, your human life, your physical life, but also your spiritual life. Gemini, so Mercury is your planet. It continues to be down in your 4th. So it's been I think in total it'll be about 2 months of Mercury being in your 4th sign. So it's focusing on home and family, roots, foundation. What, if anything, Gemini, did you see around the Virgo new moon and then Mercury turning direct on the 15th? So the Virgo new moon was the 14th, Mercury direct was the 15th. Has something started to move forward? Did something about family and home in the past come up? Is it more abstract than the physicality of home and family, meaning where is home and who is home? I think it's the end of the month when Mercury gets into Libra. I probably should have that date up already. But Mercury, nope. Mercury goes into Libra, October 4th, so we got time. But that said, in the meantime, it's not until the beginning of October that Mercury really gets that breath of fresh air when it goes into Libra. So it continues to be about settling down, getting focused on your home base, and maybe even that Virgo new moon talks about a change in your home environment or even a move over the next 4 weeks. That said, don't forget, Gemini, that you have Saturn in your 10th that continues to be a larger framework of time over the next couple of years, which is about your professional life, your professional reputation, your duties, your responsibilities on a larger level, and even your career. Saturn is in the same space as Neptune. They're not conjunct yet. They don't make that conjunction until 2025, I believe, but Saturn's sort of trailing Neptune. And I think it's worth saying, Gemini, to go back and what has been the story over the last decade about your professional life. Neptune's kind of a funny influence. Neptune can make us feel confused about our direction, hard to really anchor in on something. Neptune is great for people who are in creative careers, creative environments. I've seen Neptune involved in marketing as well, but there is that other side to Neptune. It talks about transcending a story, some element of spirituality to it as well. And so with all this focus on home and sort of needing to get back to the things that really matter, how does the same thing happen for your professional life? How does your professional life align with your spiritual needs and or even if it's not spirituality, it's like, I really want to make sure that I'm doing something in the world that feels like I have mission and purpose. I say that because over the next couple of years, you're really building something with Saturn. You're building your professional life. And I think there's something about this new moon that we had last week, which is a stepping stone in the process of really making some bigger shifts in your life and making sure that the framework of your life nourishes something very deep inside of you. Cancer. So the moon is your planet, and because the moon is your planet, it's always doing this dance around the zodiac. So over the course of 2.5 days, it's in one sign, then it goes in the next sign, and then you have a new moon or you have a full moon. So that's why that Neptune on the brain, that's why Cancer has sort of that natural ebb and flow of life. So we have to really look at the bigger strokes of what's happening with Cancer right now, because these are bigger strokes. They talk about something that's unfolding over a year, 2 years, 3 years, and in the case of Neptune, the past decade, for example. That said, Virgo season for you is your third sign. Virgo is your third sign. So this is your season, although it's starting to end this week, to focus on your voice, communication, education, how you think and listen and learn. You did have that new moon, and maybe that new moon last week ushered in a project or a need to focus on your education, or where travel and movement is very much a focus of your life over the next few weeks. There is an element of research with that Virgo energy and making sure that you sort of weigh your options and you make really good decisions for yourself at this time. The sun is opposing Neptune, and Neptune's been in your 9th sign since 2012. Yes, 2012, so 11 years. And so it's hard to really get a glean on Neptune, because Neptune really, especially the ninth is like, what do you believe in? What do you stand for? What do you think is true? These things are abstract. They're not concrete. Throw Neptune in, and what do you believe in, what you stand for, what do you think is true, is through the lens of Neptune. There is an evolutionary process that's been unfolding over the last decade. And maybe you haven't seen it. It's whether you are more open to the world than you ever have been, or your beliefs have changed, or you need to make sure that your convictions really align with something greater. The ninth is also where we find mission and purpose in the world. And so maybe you're having a little bit of an existential crisis this week. Don't worry, it will pass. The moon will move on and it'll pass. But maybe you're getting into these bigger strokes. What do I believe in? Why am I here? What's the purpose and meaning of my life? So yeah, these are big things. They're not concrete things, but there's certainly the big broad strokes of your life. That said, with the sun going into Libra on the 23rd, you're on the cusp of something. And I'm saying this because Libra is not only the foundation and the bottom and the roots of your chart, it's home, it's family, it's your living situation. It's going to usher in eclipse season. Every Cancer rising will live this eclipse to come on October 14th in their own way. For some Cancers, it's a change in the household. Somebody moves in, somebody moves out, or it's a move, or it's a time where family needs more attention. A family needs more duties and responsibilities. If you have kids, you have a partner, you have a spouse, or you have aging parents. For example, that eclipse, and I'm getting ahead of myself, Venus will be in Virgo by that time. And so maybe it's a needing to do a lot of travel with family, or maybe even having to be of service to a family member or a sibling, or needing to make some big choices about family. Leo. So we are coming to the end of Virgo season, which Virgo actually for you as your second sign is a need to consolidate, to really gather resources, and to really anchor in for the coming personal year. So you had a little bit of a late start to that with that Virgo new moon last week. It's about money, it's about income, property, resources, value, and even on the other side of things, self-worth, and sort of these values that are not physical and material, they're internal, they're broader. For example, that said, the sun is opposing Neptune this week and on Tuesday, and Neptune is in your 8th, and the 8th is kind of a funny place because it kind of gets into finance, wealth, these things that we own with other people, investments, but also gets into a deeper emotional material. Am I safe? Do I have enough? These things that sort of hold us from the past, and maybe even our parents' relationship with money and property and safety and stability. And so there's this pull, and how do you release something? How do you let something go? How do you let a fear go that's in the way of you feeling really safe and stable and anchored in your life? But that said, all of this is in preparation for eclipse season. Mars right now is in your 3rd sign. Is that correct, Leo? Yep. 3rd sign, voice and communication, how you think and listen and learn. And maybe you have a lot to say, Leo. Maybe there's a need to communicate, a need to share, a need to learn, a curiosity, focusing on your education. And if it's not literal education, maybe it's education that really kind of talks about these things that, like, what do I need? How do I educate myself about my financial resources, my financial needs, for example. I think that's the big points. Oh yeah, you're gonna have Venus trine Chiron. That's a little bit more fleeting. I think it's worth saying that Venus has been in your sign. Maybe that's quite nice, Leo. Eventually, Venus, I think in early October, will leave. But really enjoy Venus's need to enjoy life, especially as it makes that last square to Jupiter next week. But enjoy life, explore, because things are gonna start to heat up when we get into Libra season. Virgo, happy late in the season birthday, Virgo. So it is the last week of Virgo season, and as you've heard me say at very different times throughout our time together, we had that sort of late in the season burst with the Virgo new moon. So that Virgo new moon was last week on the 14th. It happened at 21 degrees of Virgo. It happened in that last 10 degrees of the sign. So we have this we've been doing a lot of preparing, and maybe you have felt that you haven't quite been able to sort of get moving in your birthday season because Mercury was also direct. This was sort of something that I said for everybody, but I think doubly so for you. We had to do our planning. We had to double check everything. We had to, it's like for you, you need to make sure that everything was in the right place before you set off on, before you set off on your birthday season. If your birthday was the 14th, the 15th, and even the 16th, it is a new year for you. It's a year that really brings in the energies of that Virgo new moon. If you were born towards the end of the sign, meaning you're born the 15th, 16th, 17th, all the way to the 23rd of September, you have Neptune opposing you. So it might add a little bit of an interesting element to your birthday season. Neptune talks about surrender, opening up. I think something I talked about this in my introduction is that Virgo really wants to be in control of all the details. There's nothing wrong with that. It's really great with like work and projects and systems building and organization. But sometimes it can be a little too tight of a grip on life. And Neptune is trying to open you up to something, not make you lose agency, but to really transcend a negative relationship with control and even a negative relationship with perfection. It's okay to be messy. It's okay for it to flow. It's okay for it just to be. And that might be a little bit of a foreign concept sometimes to Virgo, but it's an energy that's very present in the astrology this week, and especially if it is your birthday this week as well. Make Neptune your friend. Meditate, reflect, open up to something that sometimes is outside of the analytical mind. Actually, most of everything is outside the analytical mind. Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac for a reason, which is where Neptune and even Saturn is right now. All this is in advance of the sun going into Libra on the 23rd. That's the start of Libra season. Libra is your second sign of money and income, material stability, and material security. And you're going to have an eclipse in that space on the 14th of October. So I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, but you're going to go into this chapter next month that really talks about your material life. And of course, this means different things to different Virgos, but it's really, that's, how do you get the resources you need? How do you get the money you need? How do you get your material life in order or organized, for example? But we will talk more about that next week. Libra, it is almost your season. Your season begins on the 23rd of September, and it is going to be a very interesting season. As you've been hearing me talking about the last few weeks, if not longer, you're going to have a solar eclipse on October 14th. If your birthday is on October 14th or the 13th or the 16th or the 15th, plus or minus, is a powerful new year for you. One where the year to come will be very different than the year previous. I know you're all thinking, well, what does that mean? I don't know. That's sort of the mystery of astrology sometimes. All we know is that there's a change. We sort of have to wait and to see, not with anxiety, how it's going to unfold. Last time you had eclipses in your sign was 2014 and 2015 and even the end of 2013. The last time there was an eclipse on October 14th was in 2004. A long time ago. And that eclipse actually was right before I moved to New York. So that was a big eclipse for me too. And I'm not even a Libra, but I do have a Libra midheaven. But anyway, Libra. So yes, you might feel this anticipation right now. In fact, Mars is in your sign. Mars is really an agitator. It heats things up. It really makes you take control. It doesn't have that sort of, Libra's typically a diplomat, maybe not so diplomatic at the moment with Mars there, but it's sort of reminding you that your life is about to take a turn and maybe you need to have your hand on the steering wheel. Presently, Venus, your planet, is still in Leo. Leo is your 11th sign. We've been talking about this since, I think, June. This has been this big, broad time for you to think about the future. Where am I going? What am I doing? What's on the horizon? What are my plans for the next year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years? It's also a time that really gets into the broader strokes of life, the social issues, social causes, community, friends, groups, for example. And then I'm going to have the date right here, the 8th of October, Venus will finally get into Virgo. So this is sort of the lead up to the eclipse season, and we'll talk more about this next week, of course. But with Venus and Virgo at the time of the eclipses, there's an element of like new beginnings that are sort of wrapped up at the ending of old chapters. I know somebody who is an Aries with Libra rising who is about to become a father. So that's a beginning that's wrapped up with an ending. So this is, we don't have to be fearful of this, but we just know that there's something that you're on the cusp of right now, Libra. Scorpio. So Scorpio, you're coming to the end of your personal zodiac calendar. So there's two things to keep in mind. Number one is that Mars, as your planet, is in Libra, and it'll be in Libra until October 12th. So up until October 12th, it's like you're behind the scenes. You need to rest. You need to take stock of the last 2 years and possibly a lot of things, especially you had that Saturn Uranus square, you had eclipses in your sign. A lot happened in the last 2 years. You need to rest. You need to reflect. You need to go within. You need to sort through what do you want to bring with you into the next big chapter of your life, next 2-year chapter, maybe not that big, and what do you need to leave behind? And this will be sort of made more evident when you have the solar eclipse in Libra on the 14th of October. So that said, it's still Virgo season, at least for the next week, almost next 5 days. And the sun in Virgo means you've sort of reached almost the end of your personal zodiac calendar. You're in the 11th sign, what I affectionately call the 11th room, and that space is dedicated towards friends, community, society, social issues, social causes, the collective. Getting involved in your community, getting involved in social issues, dealing and navigating themes around friends and belonging and community, for example. That's starting to wrap itself up. You did have that new moon back on the 14th and Mercury direct on the 15th. So see, things are going to start to move in friends, in community, in that part of your life, well into October, for example. But that said, you still got 1 foot in the sort of this ending phase that will all prepare you for, Mars's arrival in Scorpio on October 12th. Sagittarius. So Jupiter is your planet, and Jupiter continues to be in Taurus, and it will be in Taurus until May of 2024. So it's like the major hand on your personal clock continues to point towards your 6th sign. The 6th sign is about health, wellness. How do you take care of your physical life, your physical body? How do you inhabit your life? What are the routines and the duties and responsibilities that you need to do? It's a time to really look at the system of your life and to grow it, expand it, perfect it, make it more aligned with your values, your spiritual values, the philosophical values, for example. That said, Virgo season is what's called your 10th sign, and the 10th represents the top. It's the highest place in your personal astrology. That new moon that you had last week really focuses on your professional life over the next 4 weeks. So you may see a new beginning in your professional life. It could be a promotion. It could be just things really happening in your professional life. Maybe you're really working hard. Maybe you have more duties and responsibilities, but these are typically duties and responsibilities that are the big duties and responsibilities, like the things that we have to do in life, in the world, the things that are required of us, the things that people look up to us to do, or the role that we need to fulfill. For some people, this is about getting very clear about what we want our professional life to look like, making changes. Now that Mercury is direct, maybe we needed that time to really do some strategizing and do some planning. That said, with Saturn down at the bottom of your chart, with Neptune there, the sun opposite Neptune this week, it's sort of this reminder that Neptune's been in your 4th sign of home and family since 2011, 2012, and to really look back what has changed in maybe your home life, but even that sort of the internality of home. Where is home and who is home? And career is the highest point in your astrology. It has to rest upon the fourth, which is home and family. But the fourth is where we really put down roots in life. And it's to make sure that you're really getting your needs met and things are really getting nourished. So as things unfold in your professional life, it may push and pull at the duties and responsibilities in the home life, or needing to make changes or new beginnings, Saturn there to build structures in order to support increasing, let's say, duties and responsibilities that are asked of you in your professional life. So there's a big push and pull in your astrology. Now that Mercury is direct, Mercury is a relationship planet. Maybe something with a relationship starting to move forward, but we haven't really, because it's not Sag season. It's not even it's Virgo season. But this narrative's a little bit in the background at the moment. But this is a big time in your life, Sagittarius, and I think it's going to get even bigger next year when we have that first eclipse in Pisces in September of 2024. Capricorn, Saturn is your planet, and Saturn, as I've been saying, it continues to be in your third sign. So it's like looking at your personal astrology clock and seeing one of the major hands on your astrology clock pointing towards the third. Over the next 2-3 years, it's about education. It's about voice. It's about really maturing your voice and how you use your voice, the choices that you make, how you speak, how you listen, how you learn. For some Capricorns, it's writing. For some Capricorns, it's public speaking. For some, it really is about education and taking classes. And maybe it's not like literal education, but sort of like how, what's the role of education in your life right now. Saturn, it's not going to leave until February 2026, so we got time. That said, Capricorn, you are an earth sign. Virgo is also an earth sign, and Virgo is your 9th sign. So this is a time in your personal zodiac where the sun is shining its light on these sort of bigger strokes. What do I believe in? What do I stand for? What's the role of faith in my life? What are my convictions? Where's my sense of mission and purpose in the world? These are big, abstract, but important themes. And that new moon is really, putting a focus, that new moon last week, and a focus into next month around these big themes, and having to get very clear about what your commitments are, what do you stand for, what do you believe in, for example. That said, kind of similarly, you do have Neptune down in the third with Saturn. They don't make a conjunction until I think it's 2025, but they're in the same space together. And so in a way, Neptune is next to you, even though it's on the other end of the room. Neptune's a pretty powerful energy, even if it's at the end of the sign. Saturn is the planet of matter and manifestation. It's sort of wearing down the edges and the borders and boundaries, and it's trying to open you up to something. And wherever Neptune is, that area is a spiritual work. So it really is focusing the next couple of years on something that's really been with you the last 10, 11, really doing this deeper spiritual work on how do you think, how do you communicate, the choices that you make, and hopefully having the wisdom and discernment to do so. That said, we're on the cusp of the sun going into Libra. Libra is your 10th sign of career. And over the next 4 weeks, it's especially as we get into eclipse season, it's going to be a big time for you. I know you're not a Libra Capricorn, but Libra is one of the 4 directions of your life. It happens to be, again, career, the direction of your life, the duties and responsibilities that you carry. And so big things you're on the cusp of big things, especially with Mars now trying to heat things up into the end of the month and into the beginning of October. Aquarius. So Saturn's your planet. I say this every week, and Saturn continues to be in your 2nd sign of money and income. This is a process, meaning it's going to be 3 years in total. Saturn is in your sign of money and income. And so every Aquarius is going to live this time differently, but each day, each week, each month, and over the series of 3 years, you are building this part of your life. Whether it means buying property, getting material assets, it doesn't have to buy things. You can sort of gather things as well. And even on an abstract level, getting very clear about what do you need, what's important, what's of value, and what's not of value, and even personal value, self-worth. And I think with Saturn being the same sign as Neptune, although at the opposite ends of the sign, it's making sure that your material life and your spiritual values are in alignment, for example. That said, Aquarius, Virgo season is your sixth. Wait, is that right? Aquarius, Leo. No, Virgo is not your sixth sign. Virgo is your eighth sign. So this is your time in your personal zodiac calendar where it's a little emotional. You have to sort of go into yourself, and you have to do the work, and you have to face yourself. You are in what I call the eighth room, and in the eighth room means that we confront ourselves, or life makes us confront ourselves. So see what was happening around that Virgo new moon, and especially Mercury direct, the 14th, 15th last week, because deep emotions may be coming up and things that you need to sort of look at, sort through, let go, and maybe that opposition to Neptune is giving you the ability to let things go. We need this time. It's sort of the work that prepares us and sort of clears space for new beginnings and new phases and new chapters of your life. But definitely there is a financial theme with this week and even the Virgo new moon, and having to find the balance between your sort of spiritual needs, your spiritual wants, spiritual desires, but also the fact that we have to pay our bills, we have to go to work, we have to do the human things. Finally, Pisces. So Jupiter is in your planet, and Jupiter continues to be in Taurus, and it will be there until May of 2024. So it's like one of the major hands on your personal astrology clock is pointing towards your third sign. The third sign, voice, communication, how you think and listen and learn. And to be fair, Jupiter's in the same space as your Uranus, and Uranus has been there for the last 5 years. And this has been a time to really shake up over the last 5 years. How do you speak? How do you listen? How do you communicate? How do you make choices? How do you weigh your options? How do people hear you? And your friendly reminder that voice is both the words out of your mouth, but it's also your ability to inhabit what you say. Voice is something that comes from within, and that's the deeper work. That said, on a pragmatic level, you may be really focusing on education, doing writing, doing speaking, for example. That said, Virgo season, especially the Virgo new moon of last week, was a big one for you. It focused on relationships and sort of this time in your personal zodiac calendar where Virgo season is about other people. There's a lot of back and forth in your astrology right now, especially between the sun in Virgo, but also Neptune and Saturn in Pisces. It's really about you and responsibilities and sort of like capital L life and sort of these bigger life transitions and sort of duties and responsibilities that you have to other people in your life, maybe even the major relationships of your life. Maybe something was a little stalled, but now that Mercury is direct, things are starting to progress forward in a matter around a relationship. Mercury also governs your home environment, so it's very much about home, family, other people, relationships. But yeah, Neptune's been a funny influence over the past decade. I think it's worthwhile in your own time reflecting on how Neptune has sort of eroded and opened you up and made you more sensitive. You're like, can Pisces be more sensitive? And I'm like, yes, Neptune in Pisces. Maybe you will feel the difference once Neptune goes into Aries in 2025. But that said, what else we got going on? But that's like really the big strokes. But now the sun will go into Libra later this week. And for you, Libra is your 8th sign. So you're entering in a chapter that's going to focus on these deeper emotions, these deeper feelings, having to navigate life and all of its permutations, and that's sort of the necessary alchemy that we need in order for growth and transformation. So That is your look at the astrology for October. Geez, September, my brain is already in October with the eclipses. September 18th through 24, 2023. Again, my name is Katie Sweetman, and I thank you all for joining me every week. I appreciate you all. Sign up for my mailing list. You can follow me online on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Spotify. I'm on YouTube, and I really hope that you can join me for my Saturn Masterclass, which is my 12-week program, and it's going to be really special. So also the link is on my website, empoweringastrology.com. So I will see you all next week, and take care, and we'll talk about Libra. Bye. Ooh, finish, end.